Hey friends, Dean here. Before we get you on to your episode, I want to take a moment to invite you to our next virtual online trivia night. Wednesday, May 13th at 8 p.m. Join us either on our Facebook group or on our YouTube page for 3 rounds of fun trivia, music questions, movie questions, general knowledge questions. It'll be a fun time and a chance to win some prizes and have just a good relaxing night of some trivia at home. You don't even have to go out for it. So don't forget, Wednesday, March 13th at 8 p.m. Join us on our Facebook group or YouTube for 3 rounds of fun virtual online trivia. We'll see you there. In this quick hit, we're going to talk about the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Is there such a thing as MCU fatigue? Stay with us.
You're listening to a 3324 podcast quick hit with Dean Legiro, where Dean shares stories and trivia about his favorite chart hits, actors, movies, and more.
Welcome, friends, to this week's 3324 podcast quick hit. My name is Dean Legiro. Thank you so much for joining us. You can find us on social media. We're at 3324 podcast. That's on Instagram and Facebook. We also have a really great Facebook group, which we launched a few weeks ago. Very vibrant, a lot of people there, so go check that out for some daily content as well. So, let's talk about the Marvel Cinematic Universe and possible fatigue. Let me roll some stats before we get started to kind of set the table. 26 films to date since 2008. Now, that is counting Spider-Man No Way Home, which will be out in a few weeks, right before the publication of this episode. Over $23 billion in worldwide box office. The MCU started putting out 2 films a year starting in 2011, with the exception of 2012. That's when just the first Avengers film came out. Then in 2017, they started putting out 3 films a year. In 2021, there were 5 Disney Plus series that all premiered this year. That's a lot of content. And full disclosure, I'm a Marvel fanatic. I've been into Marvel comics since I was a kid. I never was into DC. Make mine Marvel. So I love the MCU. So this is not a jaded rant against them. This is someone who loves the content and has pretty much seen almost everything in the theaters. But I think we're getting a little tired, or maybe I'm getting a little tired. There's just been so much content, and maybe with the pandemic, some of this stuff was held back from 2020. Black Widow, the feature film, was supposed to have been out in 2020, but it came out in 2021, so that added another film to the slate. But 5 Disney Plus series in 1 year, and if you're talking multiple episode series, like 6 to 8 episodes, that could be equal up to 2 to 3 additional films worth of content. So you're talking about a lot of hours of MCU content that's out there. The content has been great, with the exception of What If. I really wasn't a fan of What If. I just don't think it did the What If original comic series justice. But outside of that, WandaVision was excellent. Falcon and Winter Soldier, Loki, all that stuff was just absolutely fantastic. Really enjoyable. But I think there is such a thing as too much of a good thing is not a good thing. I think it's starting to water down some of the product. I think especially now that you're seeing some of the what we'll call quote unquote second tier characters come out. There's only really 2 big properties left that haven't been made into films yet, and that's the Fantastic Four, which I'm absolutely looking forward to, and then what Marvel will do with the X-Men. Outside of that, you've done all the biggies: Captain America, Thor, Spider-Man, Iron Man, Hulk. All that great stuff. We've seen it, but where is there to go with the MCU outside of that? That's the concern. And in ramping up the production schedule, you're kind of going through your available material a lot quicker as well, and you're going to run into eventually sequelitis is going to set in as well. There's only so far that you're going to be able to go with these characters before you have to introduce new ones. And I think you're going to start to see that issue, if it already hasn't begun, with some of the poorer performances on some of these new films like Eternals. It's done really well, but relatively underperformed to what the expectations were. Spider-Man No Way Home is going to be a monster film just because of all the hype and the crossover and the multiverse. But outside of that, I'm not too excited for these things. I've been watching them, but not with an excited edge of my seat waiting for them. I'm just I'm checking them out. Hawkeye came out, and I kind of didn't even realize it came out until a day or two afterwards, and I watched it, and it's okay. But I don't ever want to feel that way about Marvel films, where we're taking them for granted. And I think that's where Marvel needs to be careful, is by putting out so much content, you can start to take these movies for granted, especially when they're coming on streaming so quick. That whole event feeling of Infinity War and Endgame has kind of been lost, and part of that might be because of the pandemic. But we need to be careful. I think Marvel needs to tread carefully with their slate going forward. The more content you're putting out in a year, the less important and the less exciting it is, because you know there's going to be another Marvel film right on top of it. So if you miss this one, you can go see the next one. And really, especially with some of these second-tier characters, I think they need a bigger buildup, and they need some time and more promotion, as opposed to always looking to the next slate, the next Doctor Strange or the next Guardians of the Galaxy. So I'm a big Marvel fan. My worry is just that the fatigue for me is starting to set in. I'm getting a little apathetic just because there's so much content, and I feel like one thing after another is always coming out, and there's something else on the horizon. Until Fantastic Four comes out, I may not go see anything after Spider-Man. That'll be my next big one for me. But let me know. Hit us up on Instagram, hit us up on Facebook or Twitter. Do you feel that there is MCU fatigue setting in? Are you starting to take these for granted? Is it too much, or is this not enough? Let us know. We would love to hear from you. That's going to do it for this 3324 podcast quick hit. My name is Dean. Thank you for checking us out. And just remember, please, be kind and rewind.
This has been a 3324 podcast quick hit. You can find us on your favorite podcast provider, so please like, subscribe, and rate to become a part of the 3324 family. Your feedback is important, so please make sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook at 3324podcast and on Twitter at 3324p to join the conversation.